Welcome to the SD 59 Candidate Forum for the position of State Senator. My name is Harrison Nelson. I'd like to welcome you to this forum. Two quick things. The restrooms are outside the back door and to the right. The second thing I'd like to ask you to do is to do what I'm doing now. Turn off all your electronic devices, please. And I know some of you have 3 and 4 of them with you. I would much appreciate that. Tonight we're going to hear from 5 excellent candidates. They're sitting at the blue and the red table over there. We're going to ask them a lot of questions. We're going to have an opening statement of 1.5 minutes and a closing statement of 1.5 minutes. And I'll let you in on a secret. One of those 5 people over there is going to be your next state senator. You don't have to tell the Republicans. I know that's going to happen because of you people, by the way. I want to identify a couple of people here who have made this forum possible. Ron Wax, would you wave your hand, please? And thank you. And Amanda Temple, wherever she is at the moment. There she is, way in the back. These 2 people have spent an immense number of hours putting this together. I also want to thank our officers, our Treasurer Pat Vogel and our Secretary Greg Oliver and our Affirmative Action Officer Mike Winan for major contributions to this. I want to identify the volunteers who are going to make it happen tonight too. In addition to Ron being a moderator, Jill Griffiths is going to be a co-moderator. Jill, would you raise your hand? Thank you. And we have 2 question screeners. And this is really difficult work, being a question screener, because they're going to get a lot of questions from you. And that's Doran Clark next to me here, and Patty Nauman. Thank you very much. I noticed a lot of DFL kind of very important people when they came in the door, and there's too many of them for me to introduce, so I'm not going to spend time doing that. But I do want to recognize one person, and I don't think he's here. I didn't see him come in at least. But I'd like you understand, according to our ground rules, you can't applaud during the forum session when the candidates speak. But you can applaud now, and I'd like you to applaud our great state senator, Larry Pogemiller. If you look at the front of your program, there's a timeline there. It outlines the opening statement, the closing statement, and the questions and answer period. If you look at the back cover, you'll find a lot of key dates and a lot of really important information on this election. We encourage you to take that with you and use that. Inside the front cover are the ground rules. There's 2 pages of ground rules that the candidates have already agreed to. It's kind of like the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And the candidates have all agreed to participate in this way. And so we'd appreciate you if you don't applaud and wave and shout and things like that. By the way, there are refreshments available. The Sheridan Parent Association is just outside this door here, but you'd have to go around to get there. They have coffee and cookies, I think. You have 2 assignments tonight. I don't know, did they tell you you're going to get an assignment by coming? They didn't, okay. Your first assignment is to print a question that would show some differences between the candidates. Now, you should be aware that in your program, after the ground rules, are 2 pages of questions, 22 of them, that we have already asked them to respond to in writing. So you may want to review those questions and not submit the same question. Though, by the way, their answers to those 22 questions will be available for you to see on our website, which is sd59.org, right after this. And I encourage you to do that. By the way, I noticed that you have a 4x6 card like this. And they've given me a 3x5 card with what I'm supposed to say. I'm not sure exactly what that means. Maybe Rodney Dangerfield was right. The second assignment, which is the most important assignment that you have tonight, is to listen. Listen very carefully. These are 5 excellent, extremely well-qualified candidates. Each one of them, in my opinion, would be an excellent state senator. You have to listen and decide which one of these candidates is your best candidate. And it's not going to be easy. So you really need to focus on that. And now I see Ron is indicating it's time for me to get off here. So would you join me in giving a warm DFL welcome to our 2 moderators?
Thank you, Harrison. Thank you, Mandy, all of the Senate District 59 volunteers, officers, Jill, candidates, volunteers. We very much appreciate it. We're honored to not only have had a great leader in this district who's now moved on to another challenge, but 5 excellent candidates, as Harrison has mentioned. Let's go through a couple of things, and then we're going to move right to our first question. First of all, again, 90 seconds for each response. Candidates, you can see a stop and start clock. Tim, thank you very much for being our timekeeper, and when we call on you, then you will begin, and when the clock ticks down to 0, you need to stop or finish that sentence and stop in order for us to maximize the number of questions and responses you'll be able to get. One last announcement about the question cards. Again, if you have questions, according to our agenda, I see Marcia in the back. I see Catherine in the back. They have cards. There are also cards on the back table. We ask you to write your question, 1 question per card, and then raise your hand or give it to one of those 2 ladies. They'll walk them up to Patty and Doran, who are our screeners, and we're collecting the cards at 7:15. So you have a little over a half hour to write down those cards, write down those questions, get them to Marcia, Catherine, and they'll be transported here at 7:15. We'll be collecting those for the final time, and then soon after we'll go to the audience portion of the program. Okay, candidates, we'll begin by asking 6 questions that were prepared by Minnesota issues experts, specially selected for this forum. The way it'll work is Jill's going to take the first question, and she will call on you. We're starting in alphabetical order, so Kari, you'll be first. And each one of you will be called. So when the first candidate is finished, we will say thank you, and then we will say, Mr. Frey, and then you'll begin. Remember, we're streaming. We also have a radio audience who can't see, so they need to know who is talking. So we'll be saying your name each time. So once you hear your name, that is your cue to begin. So we're ready to roll. Jill?
I just want to say, really, that we all appreciate your willingness to step up. 4 weeks have passed since filing closed for this state Senate seat. You've been candidates for 28 days. I'm sure it's been quite a ride. The primary is December 6th. I wish you luck with tonight's forum and in your final week of campaigning up until the primary.
I apologize. We're going to begin with opening statements, getting a little ahead of ourselves here. So candidates will have 90 seconds to begin. Again, Ms. Dziedzic, we will begin with you. Opening statement, and then we'll move to Mr. Frey.
Okay, it's working. Hi, I'm Kari Dziedzic, and first I'd like to thank Senate District 59 for hosting this event, and I'd like to thank all of you for coming here tonight. I'm running for state Senate because I understand how far-reaching state government is. I've seen how state policies impact real people. I want to make sure our state policies move our state in the right direction. I've worked in the private sector negotiating contracts in Greater Minnesota, and I've worked in the public sector, starting with Paul Wellstone and most recently with the Hennepin County Board. I've worked with the community on a number of issues, from the foreclosure crisis to expanding bike lanes and transit options, from helping build bridges and keeping libraries open. None of these problems are sexy, but most problems aren't. I understand governing is hard work. It involves listening, negotiating, and finding creative solutions. The Tea Party Republicans at the legislature don't seem to understand that, but I do. I've been doing it for years. As your state senator, I will work hard to find creative solutions. As your state senator, my priorities include jobs, education, and making the most wealthy among us pay their fair share. I'm here today to ask for your support to be your next senator, to serve you in the state Senate and work with you to move the state forward.
Mr. Frey.
First off, I'd like to thank the Senate District 59 Executive Committee for putting this on, because this is a phenomenal event, and having the public discourse in order to make your decision, I think, is a great first step. My name is Jacob Frey, and I'm running for Senate because I know that I can truly improve people's lives. For decades now, we've had truly skilled leaders in Phyllis, Diane, and Larry, and there's something that Larry said recently that truly stands out. He said, you know what, it's time for a generational shift. I am that generational shift. I'm 30 years old. I am brimming with enthusiasm. I'm an attorney, so I understand the law. I have the capacity to make the change that we need, and I won't let you down. To me, public service, it doesn't start over at the Capitol. It starts in our streets, in our homes, and in our schools, and that's exactly where my public service has begun, advocating for tenants that were losing their homes following the North Minneapolis tornado, starting the big gay race, and mobilizing over 2,000 happy warriors in support of marriage equality, and testifying over at the Capitol to make sure that dangerous gun laws do not take the life of one more innocent child. That is where my public service has begun, and that is where my public service will continue. It is undoubtedly time for a generational shift at the Senate, and I'm the one to bring it.
Thank you. Mr. Noor.
My name is Mohamud Noor, and thank you all for coming here tonight. And thanks to the dedicated volunteers of SD59 for organizing this forum. We are here tonight because we deeply care about our democracy, and we want to carry on the strong tradition of progressive leadership from our district. I thank Senator Larry Pogemiller for his service and leadership as our senator and continuing commitment to public service. I stand before you as an immigrant who arrived in Minneapolis 12 years ago. I worked full-time jobs during the day and went to college at night. I earned a degree in computer science, where I've put these skills to service for the people of this great state. First, I worked at Hennepin County, and over the past 8 years, I worked for the Department of Human Services, where I was proud to help implement the early expansion of Medicaid under the Affordable Health Care Act, championed by President Obama. I'm running to be a state senator to make sure that my children, all our children, have the same opportunities I've had. I'm also running because Republicans are making every effort to destroy our social safety net, starting with child care programs, eliminating the home state tax credit, and also trying to stop the expansion of transit in its tracks. They are taking our state in the wrong direction and right over the cliff. As your state senator, I will fight to restore this service and make sure that the investment of the state work for the people and make sure that we put the people back to work. I will fight to close the opportunity gap that exists in our society. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ostrow.
It's great to be here tonight. A couple years ago, I stepped away from the city council, and I'm going to be honest with all of you, it's one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, because I loved every day of it. A lot of people thought I was crazy for loving every day of it, because it wasn't always easy. But working with the community, getting to know so many of you, working personally with so many people to improve the life of this community was an honor that I will always treasure. And I didn't think I'd get back into politics. I am a prosecutor. I was a prosecutor before I was in the city council. I enjoy my work. I feel I make a difference in people's lives by protecting victims and making sure that justice is served. But something happened to me over the last couple years that really saddened me. Really saddened me. I saw that people have lost their faith in their own democracy. They've lost their faith in their government. And it's more than just Democrat and Republican, as much as I'd like to say that. And I am as committed to overturning the Republican agenda as anyone, but We have to regain the faith that people have in their government and in their politics before we can get anything done. That's what this campaign is dedicated to. Ultimately, we will govern the way we campaign. This is an unconventional campaign. I'm being very clear about where I stand on the issues. A lot of people would say that's not real smart because maybe some of the things are a little controversial. I'm not accepting any money from lobbyists, special interests, running a very lean campaign that way. But when I get elected, I'll represent you and no one else. Let's rebuild that faith we have in our democracy, and let's get some great things done for the state of Minnesota.
Thank you. Mr. Wagenius.
Thank you for being here. My name is Peter Wagenius. I grew up in the city of Minneapolis. I went to the Minneapolis Public Schools from kindergarten through graduation. I'm a proud product of the Minneapolis Public Schools. After I got my degree from college in political science, I spent 2 years working in schools all across Minnesota. I was not a regular classroom teacher. I went from school to school, a different school each week, using role play and other techniques to teach conflict resolution to kids with behavioral problems, level 5 EBD, also kids with learning disabilities. For 2 years, working with them to keep them out of the path of drugs and gangs. After that, I chose to achieve progressive change through political activism. I worked for the state Senate for 5 years. I also worked on a number of political campaigns, a huge number of political campaigns. At the state Senate, I worked in DFL caucus research. Any Democrat called, we helped them with whatever was on their mind. When that's your mandate, you learn the process, you learn it fast. For the past 10 years, I've worked in the city of Minneapolis, and one of my jobs has been to help Mayor Ryback balance the budget. And that's what motivates me more than anything else to run in this race, because people who work in cities, counties, and school districts, we know what a joke, what a cruel joke these budgets are. Cruel because they're of the effects that they have on regular folks. We need to end these state budgets, and I'm tired of cleaning up their messes and reducing the impact of their cuts. That's where I want to go to where the center of the fight is, where we're going to decide whether this is a state for everybody or a state for the privileged. I believe in a state for everybody.
Let I please remind you that we're going to ask you not to applaud during the forum tonight. Thanks. The first forum question falls under the topic of legislative priorities, and it's just that. What are your top 3 legislative priorities? And if you have time in 90 seconds, if you can also tell us the next 3. Ms. Dziedzic.
My legislative priorities are jobs, education, and making the most wealthy among us pay their fair share. I think we need a strong education system, and we need quality education is the key to a good job. And if we want to grow this area and create more jobs, we need an educated workforce. The two go hand in hand. And education starts at early childhood and actually starts a little bit before that, because if the mom has good nutrition, it shows that the kid, their brains develop better, and we need to get more information to pregnant moms so that they don't smoke and they don't drink. And so it starts actually before they're born. And then early education, those kids that show up in grade school and in kindergarten, that's the proficiency at kindergarten dictates what they're going to be for the rest of their lives. The correlation between crime and high school dropout is a higher correlation than lung cancer and smoking. So we need to keep our kids educated. And how I would pay for that is I believe the most wealthy among us, the top 1%, I agree with Governor Dayton, need to pay their fair share. I'm ending early.
Thank you. Mr. Frey.
The top 3 priorities for me are jobs, 2, defeating this constitutional amendment that would ban gay marriage, and 3, taxation. I will say that number 1 and 3 are somewhat linked together. I'll start with jobs. We have this situation right now in our economy where the public employee has somehow been villainized. That is ridiculous. You don't create jobs by firing public employees. That's not how it works. Public employees have always served the overarching purpose of doing things that that's simply not profitable for the private sector to do, right? It was never profitable to build the Hennepin Avenue Bridge, but we did so for the public good. It was never profitable to fill potholes out on 35W, but we do so for the collective good. These are things that no one business can stand by, but we do so for the collective good. And secondly, the constitutional amendment. This constitutional amendment is an attack on our families, it's an attack on our towns, it's an attack on our entire institution. Marriage is something that everybody should have. Everybody deserves a teammate. Everybody deserves to stand hand in hand with the one that they love facing the world. And to attack that right, to attack that inherent right is absurd. I will do absolutely everything to attack that constitutional amendment and make sure that it is defeated and defeated soundly. And I've been doing that. My wife and I, we organized the Big Gay Race, mobilized over 2,000 people, happy warriors in support of marriage equality, and I'll continue to do that at the Capitol.
Mr. Noor.
My top 3 priorities are, number 1, jobs and economic growth. Number 2 will be education. Number 3 will be health and human services. Let me start from jobs. We must invest in jobs so that we can put people back to work and bring our state and move our state forward. We have to invest in small businesses because we know small businesses will create jobs. Secondly, health and human services. I've worked for the Department of Human Services for the past 11 years. We have lost a great senator who cared more about our social services. That's Senator Linda Bunny. I would like to take that flag from her and be the champion for our people. I've worked in ensuring eligibility for food stamps, eligibility for childcare, eligibility for healthcare, housing, and I was the system administrator of the state. So I do understand how the system works, even including the affordable healthcare and the healthcare exchange that will be coming in soon. So on the last piece, which is education, I deeply care about education. My kids go to public schools. My wife works in the education sector. She works for Minneapolis Public Schools. We have to close the achievement gap. And the only way we can close the achievement gap is make sure that we fund the education system so that it can make sure that every child can reach their full potential. We must end No Child Left Behind because it has left so many children behind so that they can reach their full potential in the 21st century economy. Thank you.
Mr. Ostrow?
The lead story on the news tonight, another $1 billion shortage next year. I think the top priority for everyone in the legislature is going to have to be how do we put this state in a situation where we have long-term financial stability. Without that, any of our other goals as progressives will not happen. And I can be an immediate leader on that issue. I've led the council as the council president, as the Ways and Means chair. I've had to make those tough calls. I've been the one right out in public that's had to do that. I'm willing to make some tough choices, and I'm willing to take some stands that may not be liked by everyone in order to raise the revenue and also reform government the way we will need it if we're going to make this state work. Education is absolutely a priority. I'm the proud parent of 2 children in the Minneapolis School District. I've been an active parent. I've been active with the school board and the city council. If we get education right, we will create jobs for the 21st century. But we have to get it right, and it's not only money. It's also the entire community coming together to support our schools. And whoever's elected to this seat is not just going to be sitting in St. Paul. At least I won't be. They need to be in the community, building up our community, building up our schools, and working with those schools. And the last priority, and I'll talk much more about this, is major campaign finance reform and major changes in terms of openness in government so people, again, can believe in the government and we can get things done.
Mr. Wagenius.
If I could only serve on 3 committees, those 3 committees would be taxes, education, either K-12 or higher ed, and transportation, and here's why. Underneath the qualities of Minnesota that we've had in the state that I grew up in were policies that said your fate and your community's fate doesn't depend on the property tax wealth of your districts. I'm talking about local government aid. I'm talking about integration aid, the school funding formula. These things have been under attack. And it's the tax committee where we need to put the Minnesota miracle back together and end a system that is increasingly biased against the middle class and in favor of the wealthy. Number 2, education. The Minneapolis public schools are in danger of losing over $17 million because of the sunsetting of integration aid. Some people believe that race and poverty shouldn't be a factor in how we think about education anymore. That's insanity. There are issues of equity between the Minneapolis public schools and other districts, and also we got to talk about this within the Minneapolis public schools, and I want to address that. Third is transportation. I have had experience in transportation going back 13, 14 years. I worked on it when I was in the state senate, and for the past 10 years, I've been Mayor Ryback's point person on transportation. I was his point person on negotiating the deal that got the Central Corridor line on track going through the university. I'm proud of that work. We put thousands of people to work, and we put a lie to the Republican myth that government can't create jobs. We put thousands of people to work, and we need to do that all across the state through transportation.
Thank you, all of you. Question number 1 is in the books. A quick reminder for the audience. Marcia, would you raise your hand? Catherine, would you raise your hand? This is your first 15-minute warning. We're collecting all of the candidate questions from the audience at 7:15. So you have about 16 minutes to write those questions. Make sure you get a card, 1 question per card. Get them to Catherine and Marcia. Thank you. Let's move on to question number 2, and that's in the area of taxes and budget. And Ms. Dziedzic, we're going to start with you. The question is, I apologize, Mr. Frey. We're going to start with you. What is your position on the use of public monies to help finance facilities or infrastructure such as a stadium or other privately owned concern? And what is your position on financing a Vikings stadium? What solution or approach would you offer and why that would serve the public interest? Mr. Frey.
Well, first, let me answer the question that I think everybody's dying to hear. Viking Stadium. I love the Vikings. I think it's a great thing for any city to have a professional NFL sports team in the city, but, and this is a big but, I do not support any public funding whatsoever going to the construction or maintenance of the Viking Stadium. We have some serious problems right now in our state. We have programs that actually help people as opposed to corporations that are being cut by the wayside, and we're going to build a stadium with that money? No, that's not happening on my watch. Secondly, one of the proposals has been to put forth to use casino money or pull tab money that would go forth towards a stadium. This also wouldn't work. Who's predominantly affected? Who is predominantly paying the money that would go towards the casinos or the pull tabs? It's those who are struggling most. So we're not going to pay for a stadium on those who are struggling most. We're not going to pay for a stadium based on the sales tax coming from Hennepin and Ramsey County. And we're not going to pay for a stadium on the backs of the people that can barely afford to pay for tickets. So, on that topic, absolutely no public funds. However, public funds help create jobs, right? If we give money towards teachers, teachers are an investment in our economy. We want an educated workforce, and businesses have incentive to move to places where there's an educated workforce, right? Construction workers build our infrastructure. We want to bring our infrastructure into the 21st century, and that once again incentivizes business to come here and create jobs.
Thank you. Mr. Noor.
I do oppose any public subsidy for the Viking Stadium, although I would like to see them stay in Minneapolis. And I will also favor any job creation. But here's why. Our families are struggling, our students are struggling, our infrastructure is struggling. We have to have our priorities straight. We cannot be subsidizing billionaires who are not going to give us back the jobs we need. We have to invest in jobs that are sustainable. As an IT professional, I believe that education can help people achieve more. So we have to invest in education. And we have to invest in infrastructure, making sure that our roads are sustainable, making sure that we invest in light rail transit, make sure that we invest in other priorities that will carry our state forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ostrow.
Well, I know what the easy answer is. The easy answer is not one penny. The Vikings will leave if we take that approach. That's easy. I don't like this issue being at the legislature at this time when we have so many other needs. But part of leadership is to take a stand when maybe you'd rather not have to be involved in something. What happens in stadium issues, frankly, is sometimes you get two crowds. You get the just say no crowd and they just leave. And then you get the cheerleaders. Well, then who negotiates the deal? The cheerleaders are the ones that negotiate the deal. I'm not in either camp. I'm very proud of the work that we did with Target Field. We did drive a hard bargain in terms of where the site was going to be, and in terms of Minneapolis not paying for it, which would have been outrageous. I strongly disagreed with the mayor when he proposed that Minneapolis should have a sales tax. I believe the Arden Hills proposal is a complete boondoggle. We shouldn't be handing over 200 acres to Ziggy Wolf in a real estate deal. We should drive a very, very hard bargain. And I'm more than willing to walk away from the table. The Vikings want to be here. This is a major market. The deals that are on the table right now are a ripoff of the public. But someone from Minneapolis has to be at the table, especially if this is going to be in Minneapolis. Somebody has to be at the table to drive the hard bargain. Make sure there's a community benefit agreement. Make sure that the stadium is environmentally correct. Make sure that, in fact, jobs for minorities are included in the deal. Let's drive a hard bargain, but let's just not say no. We have to face up to this issue, but let's do it responsibly.
Thank you. Mr. Wagenius.
I respect Mr. Ostrow, but I couldn't disagree more. Although I respect the fact that Mr. Ostrow has had one consistent position through this short campaign, unlike other candidates. I've had one consistent position on this issue, not one position before I raised my campaign war chest and one afterwards. I am against this. If it's sales taxes, I vote no. If it's gambling, I vote no. If it's legacy, I vote no. The last two, in addition to being bad ideas, are illegal, and we'll just spend years in court. Let's talk about jobs. On a jobs per dollar basis, a stadium is the worst, most cost-ineffective way to create jobs. We'd be much better off retrofitting public buildings for energy efficiency, parks, schools, libraries, government offices. This is labor-intensive. I'm influenced by the work of Art Rolnick, who used to work at the Federal Reserve, and he would tell you that the public financing of stadiums is a net loser, and it is. It's a net loser, particularly a Viking stadium, because of the incredible cost and the tiny number of games per year. Finally, folks, don't be fooled by this business about user taxes. User taxes can't fund a stadium. User taxes are what stadium subsidy advocates push to get their foot in the door. And it always ends the same way. It ends with user taxes. Sounds good, sounds not so bad. It's sales taxes. It's sales taxes when we should be putting revenue into early childhood education, the University of Minnesota, transportation, putting people to work in cost-effective ways. There are much better and higher priorities.
Thank you. Ms. Dziedzic.
I hope the Vikings stay in Minnesota. I know a lot of people love them. I am opposed to public funding for the stadium. The forecast comes out tomorrow. We're going to have another deficit issue that we're going to have to deal with. We don't have the money. We have other priorities.
The third question falls under the topic of education, and we will start with Mr. Noor. What are the most important strategies to raise student achievement of all students, and how would you pay for their implementation?
Education is a vital tool that we need to have. We have to teach our children to be successful in their lives. As a father with 3 young children and children in Minneapolis public schools, we have to invest into the future. And I think we have to invest in that future, making sure that the funds that we're taking away from the public schools is returned back to where it was. We have an issue in revenue. We don't have an issue in expenditure when it comes to education. I'm proud to have been endorsed by Minneapolis Federation of Teachers because I deeply care about education. I ran for school board, and I do understand the challenges we face. The issue is no one has put a strategy together that will address the achievement gap. We have to reach out to our community leaders. We have to reach out to each and every person who is involved in education. We have to hold everyone accountable, including the public schools, including the elected officials, including the parents and the students. We must have high expectations for our children to succeed. In order to do that, we must be upfront and say we can address this. It's embarrassing that this state has got the highest achievement gap and we're taking away the money from the kids. I'm looking forward to working with the teachers. I'm looking forward to working with the parents. I'm looking forward to working with all the leaders to address the issue of education in this state. Thank you.
Mr. Ostrow?
We know what works. And shame on us for not getting it done. We know what works. The Harlem Children's Zone, incredibly successful. Right over in St. Paul, a very dear friend of mine who also happens to be my brother-in-law is a teacher at Jackson School in the heart of the Promise neighborhood, one of 20 neighborhoods in this country that received funds for this. We know what works. If, in fact, the community engages and all parts of the community work to sustain a child throughout the school year, from infancy to graduation, we can close the achievement gap. But it takes more than money. It does take money, but it takes a lot more. And that's why on this issue, you're going to need community leaders that are not just going to fight for money, but are going to work in the community to bring the whole community together to support the schools. That's work that I've done. But we're all going to have to do that. What if we could, in every district in this state that has an achievement gap, challenge our communities to implement what was done with the Harlem Children's Zone, or the Harlem Achievement Zone? What if we did that? That's what we ought to be doing. And we can close that achievement gap. We absolutely can. We know what works. Let's not only fund it, but let's get together as a community and get it done.
Mr. Wagenius.
I'm really passionate about this issue. When I worked in the schools, I saw the achievement gap. I saw it with kids in elementary school. I saw it in high school. I saw it in junior high. I worked mostly with junior high and high school kids when I was there. But the achievement gap starts really early. And if you look at the research on brain development, it's incredibly compelling. The single best thing we could do with a public dollar is to put it into early childhood education. And we need to be willing to experiment with different service delivery models. We need to be able to, willing to reach out and create public sector, private sector partnerships so we're not competing with K-12 education, which sometimes gets in the way of us making the investments we need to make. When you invest in the earliest investments, for early childhood education, the dividends for that child and for society grow and grow and grow and grow through their entire lifetimes and for society as a whole. This is incredibly important, and we need to do it in such a way where we're not having early childhood education compete with K-12 education or higher education. It all matters. It's all important. But the achievement gap starts really early. And this is what has to drive all of our... I got a great education in Minneapolis Public Schools. And kids who look like me from backgrounds like me still do. That's not good enough. We can't be satisfied. We can't be satisfied. We have to do better than that. And we have to care at every step of the process.
Ms. Dziedzic.
I work at Hennepin County, and we have a program called A-Grad, which is where all of our county's policies are geared towards making sure kids graduate from high school and become productive adults. I think that is something that I would look to make sure that the state is doing. We also, I've worked on a program called 500 Under 5, which gets parents invested in kids' education. We need to get them invested so that when the kid gets to kindergarten, that's what their proficiency at grade 5, at age 5, that's their proficiency in third grade and on forward. So if we can get them educated and interested in books and interested in studying, then they become productive adults. And that is the key to everything. It helps crime prevention and everything. So, and how we pay for that, it needs to become the state general fund. There's a disparities if every school district, and we've had it in the last few weeks and in the last election, where all these school districts are going forward with levies. It needs to come from the general fund. It's a state responsibility. And I would work with the state, at the state, to make sure that it is funded at a state level. Thanks.
Mr. Frey.
50% of our state budget is devoted to education. So anytime you get a cut to the state budget, that inevitably results in a cut to our students. And what you've seen over the last couple years is cuts to local government aid, cuts to integration aid, and I'll tell you what, that affects our students directly. And I'll tell you a quick story. I'm presently representing an individual who's exactly my age, who's on death row in Alabama. And he'll tell you exactly how an educational system that's good or bad can affect you. He grew up, no parents to really take care of him, and for a while he was at a foster home in New Jersey. Now, in New Jersey, he had counselors that looked after him. he had teachers that followed him, not just for one grade, but all the way through middle school. They let him know when he was screwing up. They put him back on track. Then he went down to a school in Alabama. In Alabama, nobody told him that the SATs were an important thing. There weren't after-school activities, so what does he do? He goes home and he messes around with his friends. Nobody told him that, hey, you have pretty good grades, and you don't make a lot of money, so chances are you could get some sort of financial aid to go to college. So after he graduated, he thought that he had to work to get enough money to then go to college. He got involved with the wrong people, and a shooting took place. And what he told me was that if I had been in New Jersey, if I had continued on with teachers that had cared about me, this would never have happened. That is the impact, that is the real-life impact of an educational system.
Thank you, candidates. We're halfway through with our moderator questions. A final reminder, we're collecting our audience question cards in 1 minute. If anyone has yet to submit a question, Marcia is down this aisle. Catherine is in the rear. Please see them for a card. Write it now, get it in, and we're going to be collecting those cards. Okay. Question number 4, we're starting with Mr. Ostrow this time. This is on the topic of social justice and equity. What is your position on the proposed Minnesota constitutional amendment that would define marriage as a union between a man and a woman? Why do you hold that position? Mr. Ostrow.
I am very, very, very strongly opposed to this amendment. This is a matter for me not only of politics, but it's a matter of conscience, and it's a matter of my own faith tradition. And it's a belief I've had for a long time, and it's a belief that I've stood up publicly for. Way back, I think I'm dating myself, but 24 years ago when I was at St. Olaf College, I wrote a column condemning Anita Bryant. Hopefully there's some people in the room old enough to remember Anita Bryant and her hateful activities towards gay and lesbian people. And you know, when I did that, way back 24 years ago, it was so rare that somebody, a heterosexual person, would support that issue that there started to be rumors about my own sexuality. My church is a reconciled in Christ congregation that openly would welcome a gay or lesbian couple. When I was on the council, one of my proudest achievements is Clare Housing, which is a national model for housing for low-income individuals with HIV/AIDS. In fact, the campaign after that decision, when I worked hard to get that done, a candidate very strongly supported by Commissioner Stenglein ran against me primarily on that issue. But we worked hard on it. I must have had 50 meetings on it, and we brought the community along, and I stood up for it, frankly, with a lot of political risk, because it was the right thing to do. I will fight this with every ounce of my body, and I will do it again as a matter of faith and as a matter of conscience.
Thank you. Mr. Wagenius.
I was lucky enough to be able to get married about 6 months ago down at St. Anthony Falls. My wife and I feel very passionately about this issue. We incorporated it into our service about how we felt honored, but we also felt guilty that there was something being afforded to us that wasn't afforded to every Minnesotan, and that we committed and asked our congregation, our little congregation down by the river, to commit to work on this together. And I want to ask that same thing of everybody in this room. I think the Republicans think they're going to mobilize their base by putting hate and fear on the ballot and profiting from that politically. You know, they're probably right. But I think they've motivated our base too. There's a base for justice in this state. There's a base for equality. And people say it can't be done, but other states have come so close. We'll be the first, but other states have come really close. I want Minnesota to be the first state in a public vote to vote this down, and I think we can do it. If we make the moral case for fairness, the moral case for equity, we also have to make the political case. Why are they putting this on the ballot? What does this have to do with jobs in the economy? They're trying to distract from their economic failures. That's a big part of what they're doing. It's The politics of distraction. I was on the U campus the other day. The younger generations, they're motivated by this, and I'm pumped up by their motivation. Let's join them. Let's go door to door, whatever it takes, to defeat this, and then let's get marriage equality in the Senate.
Thank you. Ms. Dziedzic.
This is a civil rights issue. We cannot put hate and discrimination into the Constitution. I believe everyone should be treated equally. I treat people like I would like to be treated. I will work vigorously to defeat this amendment.
Thank you. Mr. Frey.
So back in January of this year, my wife and I, we started talking, and we saw where the tide was going as far as the legislature, and it became apparent that there was going to be a constitutional amendment that was going to get on the ballot. And we were frustrated and disappointed. And what we decided to do was something. We brought all of our friends to our place. We sat around the living room table, and we organized. We organized an event. 1, to raise money. 2, to build awareness for what's right. And I haven't thanked my wife yet. She's sitting right over there in the audience, and she's certainly been supportive not only through the big gay race, but through this whole process. So thank you, Michelle. And through the course of this organization, of the big gay race, I realized something. It's not just about marriage equality. It's about being able to commit to the one you love. It's about having a teammate that will stand by you, right or wrong. It's about being a contributing member to a society, and I tell you what, you can contribute more when you've got a teammate. That's what this amendment's about. And I will do absolutely everything in my power to make sure that this amendment is defeated, and defeated soundly.
Thank you. Mr. Noor.
I oppose the anti-marriage amendment because I stand for equality. I stand for non-discrimination. It's a civil rights issue. It's a fundamental human rights issue. This being used as a wedge, it's being used to divide people. We shall overcome any divisive issue. And I'm proud to have received the endorsement from Stonewall DFL. Thank you.
Thank you. Our questions have been collected for the audience portion, so while the screeners are tallying those up, we'll move to the next question.
The next topic is health care. Mr. Wagenius, we'll start with you this time. Given that many Minnesotans do not have access to health care services except at an emergency room or other urgent care facility, how would you improve health care access and access to lower-cost prescription drugs? And how would you pay for that?
A lot of people are frightened by the demographic changes coming in this country, and they have huge implications for our state budget, having an aging society the way we do. But there's actually good news in here if we're willing to be bold. If we're willing to be bold, there's good news here. If you look at how much we're spending on education compared to other countries, we're underinvesting. If you look at how much we're spending in infrastructure compared to other countries, we're underinvesting. If you look at how much we're spending in health care, though, we're not underinvesting, we're misinvesting. We're wasting an incredible amount of money. If the money we put into health care was actually going into health care, we'd be the healthiest nation on earth. But we're not, because the money is going to the middleman. The money is going into the health and care insurance bureaucracy rather than into health care. And some people get fantastic health care, and some people get no health care at all. And we're told that we can't look at single payer. We can't even move in that direction because that would be scary. That would lead towards rationing care. But what we're doing right now with these incredibly expensive health care bureaucracies is we're rationing care based on ability to pay. If we're willing to be bold, this huge demographic shift doesn't need to bankrupt our society. It doesn't need to make us choose between health care and education and investing in our future. We can do all of it, but we have to be willing to challenge the health care lobbyists. We have to be willing to challenge organized power at the Capitol and be willing to be bold. And that's how we're going to fix this problem.
Thank you. Ms. Dziedzic, you're next.
I'm glad Congress passed health care reform. Many of you may not have realized that just being a woman, prior to this health care reform, just being a woman was considered a pre-existing condition. So I'm glad we have reform. I will work vigorously with our congressional delegation as part of that reform to make sure a benefit set, that the definition of a benefit set is broad and robust so that the federal government will pay for the health care exchange. We need that health care exchange. It's a good option, and I'm glad Governor Dayton is working on that and working with patient groups and insurance companies and others to define that and working with the federal government. One way that we could pay to expand health care coverage is by increasing the tobacco tax. It does two things. It actually maybe will stop some people from smoking, and we can pay for the extra care that people need.
Thank you. Mr. Frey?
As I mentioned earlier, my main priority will be creating jobs. And one of the main inhibitors to job creation has been the ridiculous expense of employee health insurance. We actually have employers out there who want to hire, but they're either not hiring or they're hiring part-time workers, and that's because of the prohibitively expensive health insurance. So, as Senator, one of the very first things that I will do will be to sign on and co-sponsor the Minnesota Health Plan, which will pay for universal, single-payer health care for all Minnesotans. I stand strongly behind that. Furthermore, we haven't talked about this, but preventative care is the best care. We can be working with our underprivileged residents of the community to make sure that they have annual checkups so that they catch problems before they're actually problems. And we can start paying for educational programs so that children, they understand that exercise, eating healthy, your fruits and vegetables are a valuable thing. And actually, there's one thing that I think we can do before I'm even elected. We'd start with exercise, and we're having a door knocking for Jacob Frey on Saturday, and you certainly can get your exercise there.
Mr. Noor, you're next.
As I stated earlier, I've got the experience in working in health and human services. I have seen many people who are devastated because of lack of health care. We have dealt with so many issues that we cannot make it affordable to so many people. I'm great that we have the affordable health care, and I'm great that the governor signed the executive order when he took office. That created the option of moving the GMC, which was downgraded by Governor Pawlenty, to the Medicaid. That also moved some of the Minnesota Care recipients to the Affordable Health Care Act to the Medicaid. What we can do is make sure that we have good reform in the healthcare system. The governor recently introduced bidding process for the managed care, which will reduce the cost of healthcare by $200 million. That's the first step. We can also reduce the cost of expenditure and administration. I've worked in the healthcare system. I've worked in an emergency room for the children for the past 3 years. I do understand the challenges the parents face. I do understand how to reform the whole healthcare system. We have lost the champion, as I stated, and I'm going to take that flag from her.
Thank you. Mr. Ostrow.
One of the reasons that I am as concerned as I am about big money domination in politics is what happened with health care. And what happened with health care was that the health insurance lobby got its way. The public option should have passed. I've supported that for a long time. I think that's the best way to drive down costs and increase coverage. And there's one reason that failed, and that was the power of the health insurance lobby. I remember the first month I was on the city council being absolutely shocked that a progressive city like Minneapolis was not providing health care to its probationary employees, those employees during the first 6 months that they were working for the city. I worked to change that, and thankfully we got that done. I agree with what Jacob said about prevention. We have a healthcare epidemic in this country also, frankly, because we are not eating right. We have a diabetes epidemic. We need a major, major initiative in this country in order to reduce the intake of fat and sugar, similar to what we did with smoking, frankly, because it's killing our people, it's making them unhealthy, and it's making our health care unaffordable. We need to make sure that these health care exchanges cover those preventive aspects of health care and cover all the essential medical services. There is an opportunity through those healthcare exchanges for us to show leadership.
Thank you, candidates.
Thank you. You know, the good news is we're on time. Pizza for everyone afterwards. The sixth and final question from the moderators in this portion is in the subject of economy, jobs, small business. And let's try to be specific if at all possible. What would you propose to expand job creation and increase income generation in Minnesota? Of the programs, initiatives, and policies currently implemented, which are effective, successful, and which are not? Now, this is going to be a free-for-all, so who would like to begin? Let someone volunteer, or I'm going to call on someone. Mr. Ostrow.
Okay, I'll jump in. One of the things we have to do is that so many of our jobs are created by small business and actually individuals. And we have to make sure that we have the right kind of environment for them. One of the most rewarding aspects of my work as a council member was the work that I did with the Northeast artist community. It is incredible the amount of economic growth that is generated, what it has done for this community. We have to make sure property taxes are under control. And that's why I hope you've had an opportunity to take a look at the website, what I proposed back in July. We've got to make sure we get a control over Minneapolis property taxes, and the way to do that is to get us independent of local government aid, have our own sources of revenue, because these property taxes are killing our small businesses, and I've talked to a lot of them, and that concerns me a great deal. Ultimately, in terms of job creation, it's education. It's education for the 21st century. If we don't have a highly educated workforce that is more economically productive, where our budget is going to explode and our people are not going to be successful. So all of our efforts, long term, need to go into education. Short term, absolutely we need a big bonding bill, but let's be clear about that. That's very short term. Long term, the right approach to education and training of our citizens, that is what's going to give us a healthy economy and make sure that we have a healthy job creation in our state.
Who would like to go second? Thank you. Mr. Wagenius.
We're a major metropolitan area with good connections to the global economy. We have to resist the call from special interests to return to the old policies that seek to address our competitiveness through giant silver bullet development projects, whether it's stadiums or malls. That kind of corporate welfare, it ends up just favoring those with money and political clout at the legislature. The answer is not to subsidize individual businesses and pick winners and losers. The answer is for the government to do what it's supposed to do and do it well. To enhance our competitiveness, we must invest in higher education and research. The University of Minnesota has been an incredible economic engine for the state of Minnesota. We need to be investing in high-speed transit lines, in cultural amenities, and frankly, in a culture of inclusiveness. Because there have been studies done on what attracts innovators and entrepreneurs and micro-businesses, and this is what it is. These are the amenities that attract innovators and entrepreneurs. We don't need the next mall in Arden Hills or elsewhere. We need the next Medtronic. And the way we find the next Medtronic or the next person who's got the idea that's going to build the next Medtronic is through higher education, through research, through creating the type of community that innovators and entrepreneurs want to live in. We also have to, we've got a great thing right next to the City Hall in the old grain exchange. It's a place where people who are self-employed or micro-businesses can have no overhead and share workspace with other people and get technical assistance. This is, again, how we build the new economy.
Thank you. Who would like to go next? Mr. Frey, I see your hand up.
First off, we need to bring our economy into the 21st century, and there's several ways of doing that. Right now we have a productive capacity as a state that is up here, but we're presently operating down here. And the question is, how do we make up that difference? The private sector isn't taking care of it, so the answer is we need to create public jobs. There are shovel-ready public jobs right now that are available. One in the form of teachers. Businesses want to operate with an educated workforce. 2, there's construction jobs. Businesses want to operate in a 21st century infrastructure. 3, police officers. We've been cutting police officers by the wayside, and the truth is, businesses want to operate, they don't want to operate in a crime-ridden city. So the first answer is public investment. Now the second answer is more of an innovative idea. And this is an idea of the next generation. See, we have this situation right in our economy right now where we have employers that want to hire. We have employees that want to work, but for some reason they're not making the connection. And here's why they're not making the connection. They're not making the connection because that employer doesn't want to spend 3 or 4 months training some individual who won't be productive for that first period of time. So here's what I would propose. We could literally subsidize that employee's income for the first 3 months. After those 3 months are over, you've got an employee with a productive worker. You've got an employee with a job. And you don't need to pay for unemployment during that period of time. That is a solution. That is a solution that has been instituted in 2 other states right now and can be applicable right here in Minnesota.
Thank you. Who would like to go next? Mr. Noor.
District 59 has got small climate business environment that nurtures entrepreneurs. I think we can invest in small businesses so that we can encourage job creation. I think we have to streamline how the government works in terms of licensing, and we must address the cultural issues that exist so that we can help people succeed in businesses. We need to partner with private sectors. If we want to be first-class, global competitive economy, we must invest more in education and have high expectations. We must recognize that increased investment in higher education is essential, favorable climate for creating jobs. We have more than 20 Fortune 500 in this state. We can work together with them, also create more jobs, make sure that there's no mismatch between jobs. We have jobs that are ready to go, but then there's no talent or skills that can fill those jobs. We have to make sure that we can address the mismatch and focus on creating jobs that are ready. And we have to invest in green economy to move forward our economy. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Dziedzic.
One of the first things I would do as your state senator would be to push for a $1 million bonding bill for infrastructure projects. At Hennepin County, I've spent a large part of the last 5 years working to get funding for the Laurie Avenue Bridge. Right now, because we have that funding, right now we have 100 good-paying construction jobs over there. That does not include all the other engineering jobs and all the tech jobs behind the scene. We have a 20% minority hiring and 9% women, and a lot of the engineers on that project are women, so I'm very proud of that. At Hennepin County, we also have 2 programs for small businesses, which I would think would be great to expand. They're called Economic Guarding and Open to Business. They give resources and funding and everything to help planning a business plan so that you can get funding to providing high-end technology, resource, and information. Let those businesses go to the next level. And that, if they go to the next level, then we will have more jobs. And back again, the key, which I've said all along, is education, education, education. If we can start with early childhood and keep that kid in high school, then become a productive adult, we will have productive adults and more an educated workforce to grow more jobs.
Thank you, candidates. Let's take a breath. We're about to move to the audience question section of our program. A reminder, you all have the blue programs. If you don't have one, they're in the back. Just taking a moment while you take a breath, take a drink of water, that there are 3 sets of questions that we've posed to these candidates. One is through a fairly extensive candidate questionnaire, and those responses can be seen online at the Senate District 59 website. A copy of those questions that were asked is in your program, so you know what they were already asked. We've just completed the second part, which is our moderator questions. And now we're about to move to the third part, which are our audience questions. And both Doran and Patty have spent quite a bit of time, as you've seen, sorting through those questions, coming up with what they feel are the most representative, the best questions, and we'll turn that over to you.
Good evening. Can you hear me? The first audience question for the evening is, how will you hit the ground running at the Senate? And we'll start with Mr. Wagenius.
have an advantage in hitting the ground running at the Senate because I worked at the Senate for 5 years. I know who the folks there already. I've worked in the DFL Caucus Research Office. Frankly, back in those days, it was called Senate Majority Research, and it was written in bronze on the door because they were, frankly, cocky, and they thought they were going to remain in the majority forever. One of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to walk down to that office, and frankly, those folks are still depressed. The senators are still depressed. I think this is one of the reasons we've been losing so many senators. Not our senator, but we've lost a number of senators. It's really painful to be in the minority when you've been in the majority for 40 years. Well, it's time to dust ourselves off and get back in there and start swinging. I'm going to draw a sharp contrast with Republicans over the next session. One thing that's already been mentioned is there's going to be a huge bonding bill fight this year. Bonding is usually something that has a bigger political consensus than the operating budget. That's easy to say when the operating budget led to a shutdown last year. But I think there's going to be a lot of pressure to have a bonding bill this year because the Republicans overplayed their hand and they made everybody mad last year, and they're trying to make themselves seem nicer. Well, if they want to be nice, we get $1 billion bonding bill, billion with a B, and that's totally doable within the budget. The cost of bonding has never been lower, and we put people to work in cost-effective ways through repairing roads, bridges, retrofitting public buildings. These things can put people to work right now, and that's my priority.
Thank you. Mr. Ostrow.
I'm not going to hit the ground running. I'm going to hit the ground sprinting. And we're all going to have to. $1 billion shortfall. We're going to need leaders that are willing to be courageous about how we fund the things we believe in. And I've done that. I've done that 8 years in a row as either the council president or the chair of our budget committee. No place to hide. I'm right out there in front making the tough call. So I don't need any training about that. And that's what we need. I can provide some budget leadership. And quite frankly, I'm not going to be a shy freshman because I've been in a leadership position and I'm ready to be a leader on those issues. I'm also going to be a leader in the sense that I am already connected to this community. And that is so very important because we have to change the way we govern in St. Paul. We have to change the way we govern so that we as elected officials are connected to the people we represent. Diane Loeffler, our state representative, does a great job of that. I've worked with so many of you for the last 12 years. I've worked with small business. I've worked with neighborhood organizations. I've worked to solve problems for people. So I'm going to hit the ground running also in the sense of having a strong, healthy, and great relationship with the people that I represent. There's not an issue at the Capitol that I haven't worked on. I know the people over there. I know the issues. I will hit the ground running.
Thank you. Mr. Noor.
For the past 11 years, I've been a public servant. I have seen the cuts going through the health and human services. I've seen divisive issues come through. I've seen changes in the policies. I've also served in the past 8 years as an advisor to the governor legislature at the Council on Black Minnesota. My goal was to address the issues impacting our communities. I have seen those changes go through and being rejected. I've seen the changes that are taking place right now. So the last session, I was at the Capitol addressing the issues of education cut. I testified against the compensation issues and integration funds that were going to be cut. So I understand how the Capitol works. And I will also support a bonding bill that will put this state back to work and create jobs that are sustainable. Make sure that we invest in infrastructure. Make sure that we invest in broadband. Make sure that we invest into the future for our kids to succeed in education and also all the essential social services that we need.
Thank you. Mr. Frey.
Well, I'm not a politician. I've never been a politician, and I've never held elective office. Furthermore, you probably haven't heard of my last name before this election. But let me tell you, you don't need a last name in order to do the things that I intend on doing over at the Capitol. We need someone to get in there and shake things up. What we need is a generational shift. We need someone over there at the Capitol that will point out the flaws in the Republicans' logic. And here's one. Here's one. The rich are the job creators. That is absurd. It's been proven wrong over and over again. If you're wealthy, if you had a great idea, you capitalized on that idea, well, guess what? You probably had employees. And those employees were educated in public schools, paid for by the rest of us. And those employees probably got to work on roads that were paid for by the rest of us. And chances are you're able to get your goods to market because, once again, we had a police force that was protecting you from rioting gangs running around stealing everything because they were paid for by the rest of us. So if you had a great idea and you capitalized on that idea, great. Keep a whole ton of that money. But some of that money, you should have to pay it back so that the next generation can do the same exact thing. I'll point out the flaws in the logic.
Thank you. Ms. Dziedzic.
I can hit the ground running because I have worked in government before. I worked in the private sector, but I've also worked in the public sector. I started with Paul Wellstone. I worked with Hennepin County Attorney Mike Freeman and Hennepin County Attorney Amy Klobuchar. And for the last 5 years, I've worked for the county board, Commissioner Stenglein. I've cut through red tape. I've worked with you to find solutions. I know this community. I grew up here, and I've worked with the community. I've listened to your concerns and worked hard to find creative solutions to get things done. That's what I will continue to do. It's all about listening, negotiating, and finding creative solutions.
Thank you.
For our second question, we will start with Mr. Ostrow. Mr. Ostrow and others. Obviously, we have a budgetary problem. What creative idea outside the norms do you have to address our budgetary problems?
Well, I'm going out on a limb a little bit because I'm saying taxes are going to go up, at least to some extent, on the bottom 98% of the population in Minnesota. And I'm the only candidate that's saying that. We're not going to solve our budget problem by just taxing the top 2%. I absolutely agree with Governor Dayton to have a fourth tier of the income tax, but you can't say with a straight face that having the rich, having that 2% pay more is going to be enough to invest in our kids, to create the kind of state that we need, to have the safety net that we need. Those signs up there that say, willing to pay for a better Minnesotan, I think it's more than just the top 2% that are saying that. Do we want to have progressive taxation? Absolutely, but we're going to have to make some tough calls. Number one, we're going to have to expand the sales tax. I actually disagree with Mr. Wagenius. He said in his responses that actually is going up. It's actually going way down. We could generate $400 million a year, and we could do it in a way that's progressive by taxing clothing. We've got to be more efficient. We have to reform government. I've done it. I've done it at City Hall. I can do it at the state. We have to have major corporate tax overhaul. We should go line by line and eliminate a lot of those tax expenditures that have no place in our code. We've got to make some really tough calls, but in the end, we have to invest in a better Minnesota.
Thank you, Mr. Ostrow. Mr. Noor.
The issue of budget. I do believe we have a revenue problem. You have seen the issues that came out from the last legislative session. We have lost our AAA rating because of the shifts, the gimmicks that were used to balance the budget. In order to balance the budget, we have to increase revenue. That means taxing the rich. Although we have to share this sacrifice, as I talk to the constituents, as I talk to you, you have told me that you are willing to pay more to move our state forward. We have to invest in the priorities that will create jobs and increase our revenue. But the first thing that we have to do is, how do we reduce the government entities? How do we reduce the costs that are generated because of the issues of healthcare, education, and so forth? We can only do that if we have a balanced budget. The recent deficit that was just announced today, almost $1 billion deficit that will be coming in as a forecast. We have to understand that we cannot use gimmicks, we cannot use shifts, we have to address it heads on. We have to tell the Republicans the pledge that they signed, no tax, has to go away in order to recover from where we are and move our economy forward.
Thank you, Mr. Noor. Mr. Frey.
Well, for many years in Minnesota, we had a system set up where 1/3 of the revenue was garnered from the property tax, 1/3 was garnered from the sales tax, and then 1/3 was garnered from the income tax. But what you've seen in recent years is that the revenue that you used to get from the sales tax has declined substantially due to the economic downturn. So, where have we picked that revenue up? From the property tax. And if you've seen your property taxes go up a whole lot in recent years, that's why. And who does that affect? That predominantly affects the middle class, the working class, the poor, and seniors. And that's not okay. So, who do we need to tax more? And that is the wealthy. The rich do need to pay their fair share. Presently, the wealthiest in our society are paying approximately 7% in state and local government taxes. The middle class, the working class, they're paying 10%. That 3% difference in taxation would contribute to revenue that we could actually spend on programs that help people as opposed to corporations. You know, if you give a rich person $1 in tax breaks, where does that dollar go? That dollar goes on a big pile with about $1 million other dollars. If you give a poor person $1, where does that dollar go? It goes to bread. It goes to jobs. The farmer that's making the wheat, the baker that's making the bread, the person working in the grocery store putting the bread on the shelves, and finally the person at the cash register. These are jobs. If we want to get our economy back rolling again, that's how we do it.
Thank you, Mr. Frey. Ms. Dziedzic.
As your state senator, one of the first things I would do would be work with the federal government to do corporate tax reform. The New York Times just recently had a story about the Estee Lauder family. In case many of you don't know, they do makeup, perfumes. They use their wealth to funnel millions of dollars and save millions of dollars that aren't available to, you and I can't do that, so why should they? So I do agree that we need federal corporate tax reform. I also believe we need to, as I said before, tax the wealthy. The most wealthy among us must pay their fair share. At Hennepin County, I've initiated and worked on several programs to save dollars. It isn't just about raising taxes and cutting. We need to find creative ways to save money. I worked with Hennepin County workers. It was one of their ideas to initiate sick leave without pay, where Hennepin County employees can take days off. So in the summer, we don't have a lot of warm days all year. We're going to hit the cold days coming up. And so some of my coworkers wanted to take off a Friday, one Friday during the month, during the summer. And so they worked together and figured that out, that they could each take a Friday off and save the county money. So I brought that forward to Commissioner Stingline and to the county board, and we saved $4 million. That saved real county jobs. We also have other programs like day cleaning, where our cleaners come in and clean during the day. That saves energy costs. And we also spend a little bit to recommission buildings, and we're saving $1 million a year.
Thank you, Ms. Dziedzic. Mr. Wagenius.
Two quick, gentle corrections. I didn't say that sales tax revenue is reducing. I said that it's regressive, and it says the same thing in my questionnaire. And gently to Mr. Frey, local government aid doesn't go to schools. It goes to cities for police, fire, and public works. On the point of creativity, creativity is good in some places. I think cities, counties, and school districts and social service agencies have had to have an incredible amount of positive creativity over the past 10 years. The creativity we've seen out of the state has been incredibly destructive. Creativity is not what the state needs. What the state needs is honesty. Like, put inflation on both sides of the books. Plenty math is you count inflation for money coming in, but you don't count inflation for money going out. Anybody in the private sector will be fired instantly, and we need to stand up to that dishonesty. We need to stand up to the dishonesty of shifts, which are actually cuts. We need to stand up to the dishonesty of kicking the can down the road again and again and again, and down to local units of government, which means down to property taxes again and again and again. I believe that the right kind of creativity comes from constraint, from putting yourself in an honest box and then asking how you're going to get out of it, not from looking at the margins and figuring out how you can shift stuff around and make you look balanced. I'm never going to concede to the question to the Republicans that they've balanced a budget. We've been structurally imbalanced for 10 years. We have to stop conceding the premise of the question, and then we can get creative.
Thank you, Mr. Wagenius.
The third audience question is, the most unique natural feature of our area is the Mississippi River. How will you put your leadership to work in making it a jewel in our community? We'll start with Mr. Noor.
Mississippi is shared with so many neighbors in our community. We have to reach out to everybody, understand that investing in our environment, protecting our environment, is good for the future. We must leave something good for our children, for their future. To do that, we must have legislative process that addresses what needs to be done. And that has to come from the communities around the Mississippi River. And I will make sure that if elected, I address that issue by bringing everybody who's part of the process to come together and come up with a plan that will address the issues that are necessary in the environmental sector. Also, we have to encourage creating green economy that will protect our environment. I know some people have given up in the green economy. I know some people are critical of the green economy. But the only way to address the issues of moving forward is putting together a plan that can address those issues. And I'm willing to do that.
Thank you. Mr. Frey. Oh, you want what? Okay.
I didn't grow up in Minnesota. I grew up in Northern Virginia. And one of the coolest things when I first moved to Minneapolis was being able to walk across the Mississippi River to work. I remember calling back to my friends back in Northern Virginia and saying, guys, you wouldn't believe this. Every single morning I get up and I walk across this epic river to work. I couldn't think of anything more American. And it's something that we need to protect. The Mississippi River is a jewel in the Northeast. And the trick to keeping it clean is keeping it clean. And it's working directly with some of the organizations that are already set up around us. Cordelia Pearson, who was actually a candidate not long ago, part of the Mississippi Riverfront Coalition, she has done a phenomenal job in organizing neighborhood associations, in working with legislatures to make sure that the riverfront stays the way it is, not just for this generation, but for next generation as well. We have the capacity to keep this river the way we want. We just need to act.
Thank you. Ms. Dziedzic.
I grew up here, and so I grew up going down and fishing on the river. And if you go over to Cywex and Sure Lumber and actually Marshall Terrace Park, you can actually walk down on the river. And if you go down by St. Anthony Falls, you can walk down on the river. So it is key to our area, and it's key to our economic development. At Hennepin County, I worked hard to get ERF funding, which is Environmental Response Fund. We got $345,000 to the park board to clean up Sure Lumber Brothers. And I also worked hard at the county to get $1 million in stimulus funds to clean up that. And so if you go over there right now, the buildings are gone, they're cleaning it up, and there's plans to put a park there. There's plans to do kayaking and all sorts of stuff. So that's one thing. I also worked on the Laurie Avenue Bridge, which you might not think it's a big environmental deal, but if you drove over that old bridge, you had the grate that kind of went like this, all the sand and all the salt and any gas, all that leaked into the river. So now we have cleaned that up. We also have a 80-acre DC sand filter that will catch all the rainwater, because we don't want that polluted. We want that as a jewel in our area, and we need to protect that. As your state senator, I would continue to work with Liz Walensky on the park board and Cordelia at the Riverfront Corporation to promote their ideas and to bring that park to the river and bring the community back to the river. The proposals, in case you haven't seen them, they have kayaking down there and they have all sorts of wonderful things. And we need to get that community here. We don't have lakes in this area. They stole Lake Sandy years ago, so we need the riverfront.
Thank you. Mr. Wagenius.
I'm proud to be the only candidate endorsed for Senate 59 by Sierra Club. One of the things I talked to Sierra Club, in addition to my other environmental work, is the work that we've been doing at the city level on the most immediate threat to our river, which is an infestation of Asian carp. You may know that Governor Dayton convened a task force on this issue because it has immediate, serious implications in two ways. First of all, the Asian carp itself. They crowd out all the native species. They've been coming up the Mississippi River from down south for many, many years, and they don't come in a consistent pace. Sometimes they have a good year and they come 50 miles all of a sudden. Well, EDNA for Asian carp, these are one of the 4 species. They jump up in the water when the water's jostled by a boat. People have been killed. Boaters have been killed by these fish jumping up, and they're smacked by a 40-pound carp in the face. I mean, it's brutal. We have to stop it. And one of the ways we're going to stop it, one of the things that there's very likely to be legislation passed to do, is to close the lock and dam. I represented the city on the Governor's Asian Carp Task Force. I got to speak to Governor Dayton and Amy Klobuchar in this meeting. They're likely going to close the St. Anthony Falls lock and dam, and it provides an opportunity for us to demand the 3 R's: relocation of businesses on the river, revitalization of those properties, and restoration of native habitat. It's a problem. It's also an opportunity to reclaim the river, and that's what I'm going to do in the next session.
Thank you. Mr. Ostrow.
I grew up loving the river. My father, who sadly we lost 14 years ago, and I would go on river trips. My mom is here, by the way. Hi, Mom. But I loved our river, and I spent a lot of time working on these issues when I was on the city council. 7, 8 years ago, I had a conversation with Rip Rapson of the McKnight Foundation, and we started what admittedly was a long conversation, which ultimately ended up in the creation of the Riverfront Development Corporation. I served on the Mississippi Watershed Management Organization. I'm very proud of the work we did there, because we were very strategic in focusing our resources on the water quality of the Mississippi River. We helped build up Edgewater Park. It wouldn't be there today if it wasn't for the MWMO. There's a wonderful new headquarters there that is really going to make sure that people in this community are connected to the river. We are connected to the greatest river perhaps in the world, certainly in this country. What needs to happen, though, frankly, and what we haven't had, is we need the city and the county to agree that this is a top priority. I mean, quite frankly, I wish rather than Lowry Avenue, the city and the county had gotten together and said, let's build up the upper riverfront. Lowry Avenue is great, but our national treasure is the Mississippi. So that's what we need from our city and county partners, is to make this a priority at the legislature, and then I would have the ability to fight for it.
Thank you.
Our 4th audience question will first go to Mr. Frey. Some state Senate leadership have recently spoke publicly against teacher tenure. Given the anti-teacher and education change atmosphere we are in, how would you vote on teacher tenure?
Teacher tenure is a valuable institution. We have to respect our educators in this system. If we don't respect our educators, where will they go? They'll go to some other profession. These are public employees that are taking a job that is, quite frankly, they're not paid enough. So we have to pay them back, and the way that you pay them back is teacher tenure. I am not for going back on this.
Thank you, Mr. Frey. Ms. Dziedzic.
I also agree that we need to support our teachers and support teacher tenure. I think the Minneapolis School District, is doing a great job at finding creative ways to keep teacher training up and to work with the students and to go through that way to boost the student education level. So I support our teachers and I support teacher tenure.
Thank you, Ms. Dziedzic. Mr. Wagenius.
I support maintaining teacher tenure. I think we're missing the big issue here. There's a huge demographic shift coming. A lot of people think we need to do something about teacher tenure to get fresh blood into the system. There's fresh blood coming into the system in the next 10 years because we're going to have a huge wave of retirements. The question isn't, we don't need to change teacher tenure. What we need to do is support young teachers. When I was working in our schools, not as a regular classroom teacher, but with kids with behavioral problems, I knew a lot of people my age who were getting into the teaching for the first time, and they did not feel supported. And let me tell you what happened to a son of one of my favorite teachers. He was dedicated to urban education, dedicated to working with kids with the biggest challenges, with diverse populations. Well, here's what happened to him. He got laid off, but then he got rehired. and then he got laid off, and then he got rehired again. And it happened so many times at a certain point, even though he was trained with our tax dollars, trained to serve in the Minneapolis public schools, dedicated to urban population, he ended up working for the city of Bloomington and their schools. And I don't blame the school board for that. I blame the legislature for putting our schools on the funding yo-yo, up and down. They don't know what to do. How do they budget when they don't have a stable platform? This is what we should be focusing on. How do we support young teachers? There can be multiple pathways to teaching, but the question is, are they getting support before they get into the classroom and for that first critical year? We haven't done enough in that, and that's what we need to focus on. That's what's really going to get fresh blood into the system and keep them there.
Thank you, Mr. Wagenius. Mr. Ostrow.
Here we go again. What's the answer? Absolutely yes, I support tenure. End of conversation. It's not that easy. It's not that easy. I support the concept of tenure, but sometimes tenure has some consequences that are hard, that are bad for our kids. I personally worked with Carla Bates now on the school board when some of our teachers were being transferred out of their school because of some alternative licensures they had. That was bad for our kids. That was bad for our kids. Thankfully, that got changed. But it wasn't easy to change, and frankly, the union resisted it. There are some folks in South Minneapolis, Linnell Mickelson, other folks like Councilmember Samuels, that are somehow being condemned as anti-teacher because they're willing to ask the tough questions about how we provide the best possible education for our kids. They're not anti-teacher. They're very progressive, liberal people that support unions. But we're entering a time where we have to do a better job teaching our kids. And it's going to require some very difficult conversations with our teachers. We need to work with them. And I'm convinced as professionals, they want to learn to teach these kids more than anybody. But let's not have these pat answers and pretend that there aren't some reforms that have to happen in our schools. I also want, I don't have any time, I want a GI Bill for teachers because we've got to make sure that they can pay their debt. We're losing too many teachers because of the overwhelming cost of college debt.
Thank you, Mr. Ostrow. Mr. Noor.
I do support Teacher 10. Teachers are not part of the problem. They are part of the solution in making sure that our children are successful in education. I'm very proud of my endorsement from Minneapolis Federation of Teachers. I look forward partnering with them, working with them, addressing the policy issues so that we can really close the achievement gap we have in this state.
Thank you, Mr. Noor. Patty will bring us our next question.
For the fifth question, we'll start with Ms. Dziedzic. The question is, how will you work to keep the University of Minnesota a great institution of higher learning?
I went to the U. I'm proud that I went to the U. It was a lot more affordable when I went there. We need to find ways to the state originally back in when Rudy Perpich left office, and some of you might not remember that, the state was funding higher ed at 15% of the general fund, and now it's down to 7%. So we need to fix that because it is a great institution. It's a land-grant institution so that everyone can afford to go there, but it's also a research institution that will help us create jobs. One of the graduates at the U was Earl Bakken, and he started Mechatronics in a garage in northeast Minneapolis here in that district. And so we need that university to provide that creativity to expand jobs and to create jobs. So we do need to fund it. We need to make it funding for not just the U, but also for students. We need to expand grant opportunities and teaching assistant opportunities so they get connected to the community and connected to the teachers and be better teachers there. So I'm all for supporting higher ed and funding it.
Thank you. Mr. Wagenius.
The senator who represents Senate District 59 has a special obligation to represent the university. And that's a complex thing because the university isn't any one thing. Let me tell you a couple things I learned from living in a university-adjacent neighborhood, from living with my brother when he was trying to organize a union of TAs at the university, unfortunately unsuccessful, and as the city's negotiator with the U trying to get the light rail project built. No one group speaks for the university. And one of the funniest things is when somebody asks, what does the U think? There's no one answer to that. The faculty, the administration, the students, the union and non-unionized workers, the hospital, they all have different opinions, and you got to respect them all. And one of the ways you respect them all is recognizing that no one person speaks for the U. But we all want a strong university, and we all need to fight for a strong university. We need to increase the political power of the university, and we need to do it with students. We can't do it just thinking that if the funding goes down, it just comes up on tuition. Student debt nationally has exploded from $440 million to $440 billion to $550 billion in just 3 years. Economists are talking about it like it's the next bubble, like the housing bubble that's going to pop, and people can't pay their student loans, and economic devastation is wreaked. We have to do the budgeting with the university with the students and their debt load in mind.
Thank you. Mr. Ostrow.
Well, I do think there's a bit of Alice in Wonderland to our conversation tonight. We're all talking about the money we need, but we're facing an incredibly dire budget circumstance. These are the revenue projections that actually were a couple years ago, and my understanding is they maybe have gotten even worse, that showed as much as a $4 billion structural imbalance that may be even worse now because of the forecast we just heard. So if we're not able to have a tough conversation about how we raise the revenue, frankly, beyond taxing the rich, and yes, I agree that we need to do that, all these conversations about how everything is underfunded, is really not going to do the job. So at some point, we got to have a really challenging conversation about that. We also have to have a conversation about priorities. What is it that the university is doing that it can't do anymore? What is most important there? How do we make it more efficient? We've got to be willing to work hard on some of those questions. It's a really, really tough road to hoe. It is absolutely critical to the future of this state that we make it a priority to fund the research at the university. That is a job driver. It is very important that we maintain the university as a first-class institution, but we need to be creative about it, and we need to be courageous about how we raise the revenue to do it.
Thank you. Mr. Noor.
Minnesota's college graduates have the fourth largest student debt, almost $30,000 per student. I do believe we must invest in higher education that allows access to all Minnesotans regardless of their background or socioeconomic status. This includes partnership with private entities. We must also have base funding increase to compensate for cost of inflation. As a student, as a community leader, as a mentor, as a taxpayer, I'm committed to making higher education more affordable and accessible to all. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Frey.
Well, I know the difficulties that students are facing these days, and I know because I've been talking with them directly. Over the past several weeks, I've knocked over 1,000 doors in Dinkytown. I've talked to over 9 fraternities and sororities. I've met with athletic teams. I've talked with the Minnesota Student Legislative Coalition. And there's one truth here. Students are frustrated. They're frustrated because tuition has literally doubled in the last 10 years. It has doubled. What does that result in? Students are graduating with a heap ton of debt and no job. Inevitably, what's happening? They're moving home and staying with their parents. Now, that's not good for anybody. That's not good for students. It's not good for parents. And what's more, it's not good for our economy. Our economy has always relied on students graduating from college, getting a job, and beginning to inject funds into our economy, buying clothes, renting, buying cars, but instead now they're on the couch with their parents. That is not a good thing, and it's something that we need to put an end to right now. And it starts with putting a cap on student tuition. Student tuition has literally we've got about 15% funds from the state going to student tuition now. and it needs to increase.
Thank you.
A special thanks to the candidates for the brevity in their question answering so far. It allows us a sixth question. And it is, and it's going first to Mr. Wagenius. What specifically would you do to end homelessness in Minnesota? What specifically would you do to end homelessness in Minnesota?
The first and most important thing we need to do to to reduce homelessness in Minnesota is to get on top of the foreclosure crisis. It never fails to amaze me that we keep moving on to the next subject as if this still isn't an incredible drag on our economy. The city has been doing a lot of things that I'm proud of, working with the Northside Home Fund, working with Habitat for Humanity, doing the counseling work with folks who are potentially in danger of being foreclosed upon. This is a key thing that we need to do. We need to make sure that the problem isn't getting worse. We also have to defend services to the folks who are already homeless. The city and the county have collaborated on a project to end homelessness. It's saying it that way is a bold goal, but that's how we need to be thinking about it, the project to end homelessness. Kathy Tenbrook and the folks working on that are trying to maintain those services, and doing it within the context of continued state cuts is, again, ridiculously hard, and it requires them to get creative about providing the same services with a reduced pot of money. We need to maintain funding in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund in the city of Minneapolis, and that's been a challenge. Everything in the city has been cut, including that. I'm proud that we got I'm running out of time to say this, we got a pension deal that is going to reduce pressure on the city of Minneapolis budget, so things like the Affordable Housing Trust Fund won't need to continue to be reduced, but we need to replenish them.
Thank you, Mr. Wagenius. Mr. Ostrow.
Well, it's one thing to support affordable housing and support funding for affordable housing, and frankly, it's another thing to actually get it done in the community, because it's a tough sell. I mentioned earlier the Clare housing proposal. Probably no proposal I worked harder on than that one. And the conversation in the community was there were understandable concerns, some others that frankly I didn't understand, because of the concentration of poverty. And what we did through, I'm guessing, 40 meetings is we got to a point where we built Clare housing, but then we also were able to build some townhomes, which are now being constructed a number of years later. We need to increase the minimum wage. We need to make sure that we have mental health services. A lot of the folks that are homeless have serious, significant issues of mental health. We need to address the issue of drugs. I'm currently prosecuting a number of drugs cases. I'm very proud, frankly, of the fact that we were written up just about a week ago in the Star Tribune, the Anoka County Attorney's Office, for our diversion program, which gets help immediately to those arrested for drug violations. We need to fund it, absolutely. It was a priority and it slipped away. We need to fund it at a level that is going to advance the cause of affordable housing. But I'm willing to stick my neck out on this issue, and I already have.
Thank you, Mr. Ostrow. Mr. Noor.
First of all, we need to have affordable housing. The current waiting list can go up to more than 5 years. And the wages people earn does not permit them to rent a single home. We have got large families who have the need to have a larger housing, but they cannot afford it all. They're kicked out from their 2 bedrooms because they need 3 bedrooms. They're kicked out from their 3 bedrooms because they need 5 bedrooms. We have to address the whole issue. Why do we have homelessness in our state? We must also create a wraparound services so that we reduce the homelessness. We have got runaway kids because of mental health, chemical dependency, because of issues with their family. They run away from their household. If we can address those social issues and we have a place that they can go to, that we can rehabilitate them, they can stay there shortly until they find a permanent housing, we can solve those issues. But there's no solution right now. Governor Pawlenty initiated a process of ending the homelessness. It was just a little bit of help, but it did not address the cause of homelessness. So we have to address what is really creating homelessness in our state.
Thank you, Mr. Noor. Mr. Frey.
Yes, I understand the issue of homelessness because I've been out there on the front line, representing tenants in North Minneapolis that were literally on the brink of becoming homelessness, and I've found ways to push them back. Now, one of the main reasons is that you're seeing these agreements. They're called rent-to-own agreements. It sounds like a great thing. You pay $500 a month in rent, and then all of a sudden you own the place 7 years later. But that's not exactly how it works. What you see is these landlords are not really landlords when they do this. What they are, if the sink breaks, the landlord doesn't need to fix it because it's rent-to-own. If the roof caves in, the landlord doesn't need to repair it. It's all the tenant's responsibility. And what's more, and it's very difficult to even see in the contract, is that after 4 or 5 years of renting, all of a sudden this big balloon payment becomes due of $80,000 or $90,000. Inevitably, the tenant can't pay. The tenant can't pay because that's probably why they entered the rent-to-own agreement in the first place. They couldn't get a loan, so they go homeless. That's wrong. These rent-to-own agreements are wrong, and we need to have legislation written up so that it is illegal for landlords to engage in these sharp practices.
Thank you, Mr. Frey. Ms. Dziedzic.
I've worked on homelessness issues at the county for a while. I've worked on contract for deed issues and foreclosure issues on the North Minneapolis. Another issue at contract for deed that we're finding is that if you buy a house on contract for deed and you are not told that you have to file that with the county, and you're paying your rent or your payments to the landlord or the mortgager, if that person doesn't pay and quits paying the bank, if you haven't filed that document, you're out of luck because there's no record of you buying that house on contract for deed. So I've worked with nonprofits to address that issue. I've also worked a lot on the foreclosure issue. What I would do as state senator is to make sure, because the foreclosure process is a state process, so I would make sure and work for a law to mandate mediation, to make the bank sit down and negotiate a workout with the homeowner. I've also worked closely with Heading Home Hennepin to get at the root causes of homelessness. We do provide services to people to move them out of the shelters and to move them off the streets into the shelters and into homes. And I think we need to continue doing that because everybody deserves a home.
Thank you, Ms. Dziedzic. I believe Ms. Nauman has one more question.
The seventh audience question is, where would you work to find compromise with Republican majorities in a political atmosphere where compromise seems very hard to come by? And we'll start with Mr. Ostrow.
One of the pleasures I had was serving on the League of Minnesota Cities board for 3 years. And frankly, one of the reasons it was a pleasure is I honestly didn't know whether people were Democrats or Republicans. Because local elected officials in most cities throughout the state really don't think in terms of Democrat and Republican. And what we worked on quite often were issues of public services and partnerships, lobbying issues that were important to cities that frankly both Democrats and Republicans agreed upon. I will admit to knowing some of the Republican legislators. I hope you don't vote against me for that, but I do. I think we have to really think about the fact that whoever you elect is going to, I will announce right now that if you vote for me, I'm running in 2012. So there's the first person to announce that. Whoever you elect is going to be there, at least if they get their wish, at least for a while. I don't think this can stand with this crazy right wing of the Republican Party. Maybe I'm wrong. I think there's going to be a house cleaning. I know a lot of moderate Republicans, they fled Emmer and went to Horner, and they're open to the kinds of reforms that I think up here we could agree to. So over the long haul, you are going to need legislators that can reach across the aisle because the makeup of that legislature, I believe, will change. And I think I absolutely can do that. I've done it in the past, and I can do it as your state senator.
Sorry. Thank you. Mr. Noor.
In every challenge, there's an opportunity. I do believe we must have bipartisan groups working together to resolve the issues of this state. I do believe that people need to work in a cooperative, in a civil atmosphere to achieve our common goal. I do know that in this state, this has been our tradition in Minnesota. We are known as Minnesota Nice, and I think that has gone way out of the way. We have to bring it back and focus on the issues of solving our problems together. I believe I will be able to reach out to the Republican senators and even invite them to the district and discuss with them about the issues that impact this district. And I'm also willing to go with them to their district and discuss the issues that impact the whole state. So I'm willing to work collaboratively with anyone who wants to solve our issues.
Thank you. Mr. Frey.
Well, I'm absolutely willing to work collaboratively with anyone who's willing to solve the issues, but the problem with a lot of today's Tea Party Republicans is that they don't want to solve the issues. What they want to do is create problems. They want to benefit themselves. And it's very difficult to work with that. That is just the plain old truth. That's just the truth. So what we need to do is we need to point out flaws. And what I've understood is just because there are two sides of an issue doesn't necessarily mean that there are actually two arguments. I'll give you one example. When Martin Luther King finished his I Have a Dream speech, he didn't finish the speech up and say, oh, you see those cops over there with the German shepherds and the hoses? They have a point too, because they didn't. They had no point. And there is no point on several of the arguments, quote unquote, that the Republicans have been bringing over the last legislative session. There is no reason that someone shouldn't be able to marry the one that they love. There is no reason that the rich shouldn't pay their fair share in taxes. There is no reason that someone should have to choose between sleeping under a bridge and sleeping on a sidewalk. There's no reason for it. And we've got to point that out.
Thank you. Ms. Dziedzic.
One of the things that I think I do well is bring people together to find commonalities and find solutions. But one of my jobs in the private sector was to negotiate contracts. And so just by that means, you're negotiating a contract, you have to get together and find commonalities and agree on an agreement to get the job done. So I've done that before, and that's what I would do as your state senator. There's also bipartisan caucuses going on at the legislature right now. One of them is a bipartisan caucus. They're meeting when the session isn't in session and looking at reform issues and ideas of reform. And so I think there are people over there that are trying to work together. The one that I would do would be the reform group that's looking at technology ideas and how we can data share and save money. So I think everybody needs to work together to get the job done. And so I think hopefully the mentality is changing, and I would like to participate with that group and move the state forward.
Thank you. Mr. Wagenius.
This is a delicate issue because one of our jobs is to get back in the majority, and that involves drawing a sharp contrast. On the other hand, we're not necessarily guaranteed we're going to get it, although I'm going to fight really hard. So here's what I've found in City Hall is necessary if you want to be able to find common ground with people. And not everything breaks down along party lines. Some people who follow the legislature know some things break down by region, for example. Here's what I've found. If you have to disagree, try to not let it get personal. If you have to disagree, try to have it be about substance, not about symbolism. And most importantly, just try and find places to agree. We did that on 35W south of Minneapolis, south of downtown. For years, suburban conservatives wanted to expand the freeway 3 lanes in both directions, and urban liberals wanted a light rail line, and neither of them was getting anything. And eventually we built a coalition with conservatives, including Mary Liz Holberg in Lakeville, and urban liberals like Frank Hornstein. And we built a coalition of all 6 cities, Lakeville, Burnsville, Eden Prairie, Bloomington, Minneapolis, Richfield, for bus rapid transit, adding 1 lane to the freeway, just 1 for bus rapid transit. And we did it just in time to get $133 million from the Bush administration, which otherwise we would have had to pay for with local taxes. So it can be done. I worked with downtown business leaders. They know I'm a flaming DFL liberal. I know they're not. But if you work and work and work, you can find places to agree and you can get things done. You got to do both.
This completes the audience questions. I'll turn it over to Mr. Wax.
Thank you. Doran and Patty, you did a magnificent job. Thank you. And candidates, take a breath. We're closing in, and I know that you're going to look forward to getting back to maybe having some dinner in your families and relaxing, being out of the spotlight, but you're doing a fabulous job. Before we get to our closing statements, this is time for a couple of questions from the moderators. We'll just call it Chef's Prerogative. So I'm going to start with Mr. Frey with our first Chef's Prerogative question, and then Joe will have the last word before closing statements. So this question is, if you could wave a magic wand and have one piece of legislation immediately become law, what would that be?
Everyone deserves to marry the one that they love, period.
Thank you, Ms. Dziedzic.
That's a really good question. I guess I agree with Jacob. I think that would be a really good one, and I think I vigorously would support that. I think another one would be to find and fix the budget problem.
Thank you. Mr. Wagenius.
I think if I had to pick just one thing, the thing that's going to make an impact right now, it would be a willingness on the part of the legislature to raise revenue. We have to raise revenue. Everybody knows this. The budgets have been structurally unbalanced for 10 years. So we got to ask ourselves the question, what happened 10 years ago? Well, we had years in the 90s. I was at the state senate in the 90s, and the Republicans said, we have these terrible things called surpluses. They were so mad, and it meant we were overtaxed. Well, they cut taxes too far, and we've been structurally out of balance ever since, doing damage to our quality of life, doing damage to a compassionate society, doing damage to the state that I grew up in that was inclusive of all people and wasn't about you get to succeed if you come from a city with high property tax wealth, and if you don't, you're on your own. And if you have a disability, you're on your own. And this all comes back to, are we willing to pay to live in a civilized society? So I think the first thing is to break the mythology of no new taxes and raise revenue.
Thank you. Mr. Ostrow.
Well, you said you were giving me a magic wand, so I'm going to use it. I would enact a constitutional amendment to the federal and state constitution. I'll tell you exactly what it would read. The Congress and the states shall regulate the direct and indirect expenditure of private funds on the electoral process in order to ensure that no group, entity, or individual exercises unequal influence on an election by those means. We're losing our democracy, pure and simple. Big money is taking over. It surprised me, frankly, that no one else has mentioned Occupy Wall Street or Occupy Minnesota, because I guess I didn't have a reputation on the city council necessarily as the quote-unquote radical. But I am, if you want to call me a radical on this issue, I am, because we have lost our democracy. Big money has taken over. If you talk to the folks that are protesting, that's the number one thing they're saying, is that they don't have a voice. And I hope you go online to our website, ostrowforsenate.com. I hope you support me, but even if you don't, sign the online petition. The online petition to restore our democracy. The central plank in it is, let's be the first state in the country to vote no on the constitutional amendment in terms of gay marriage. Let's be the first state in the country to vote yes on this constitutional amendment and get our democracy back.
Thank you. Mr. Noor, what about your magic wand?
I agree with what everyone else said, but then we have to increase revenue so we can create jobs, so that we can invest in education, we can invest in housing, we can invest in infrastructure, we can put people back to work so that we can be successful in this state.
I thought we might end with a question that is less policy and more personal. Pretend you've won the primary and general election. Then before session begins, you are granted 1 week's vacation anywhere, and you're allowed to take one book. Where would you go, and what would you read? Kari, Ms. Dziedzic, I'd like to start with you.
Another good question. have to think about which book, because I have a stack like this at home, and probably 10 on reserve at the library that I have to remember to pick up, and hopefully they don't run off. Where would I go? First, I'd probably sleep, so I'd need 2 weeks because I'd need to sleep for a week. And then I have family in Poland that I'd like to go visit. I have a cousin in Australia that I'd like to go visit, so there are just many places that I would love to go visit. One of the books that on my list is The Help. And so that's probably what I would take with me to read. I've heard wonderful things about it. Haven't seen the movie yet because I need to read the book. So that's what I would do.
Thank you very much. Mr. Frey?
Well, regardless of whether I'm elected to Senate or not, this is not a decision that I have the jurisdiction to make for many reasons, most of which my wife is in the audience right now, so I defer to her entirely.
Mr. Noor?
I agree with Jacob. My wife is also in the audience. But the first thing that I'll do is I may travel back to Somalia so that I can encourage them that through democracy, they can be successful. Through democracy, they don't need bullets. They need to discuss, they need to sit down and move forward, the nation that has been devastated for the past 2 decades. That will be something that I can do to encourage democracy in that nation. Secondly, reading books. The books that I mostly read are more technology-based, so nobody will say that I'd like to read more about Java and create a better system for our state.
Mr. Ostrow?
I'm fudging a little bit on the question because I've already started the book, but when this campaign started, I wasn't able to finish it, and that would be the biography of Thurgood Marshall, who I think is one of the most unappreciated or underappreciated men in American history. And I mentioned earlier the Citizens United case and my concern about that. I just found out today when I was doing some more, I guess, research and preparation for tonight that Thurgood Marshall wrote the opinion in 1990 that upheld limits on corporate contributions. But he did so much more. He was such an incredible leader, and what he did was, as an attorney and as a justice, he showed how the law can be used to advance social justice and social change. And in the end, isn't that what all of us are up here to ultimately accomplish? We're not going to do as much as Thurgood Marshall, but it was a very inspiring book for me, at least the first part of it, and I would hopefully finish it.
I'm smiling, and the fact that I'm smiling terrifies 2 people, my campaign manager and my wife, because I'm going to answer the question honestly. The place is easy. I'd go the same place that my wife and I have gone on vacation the last couple of times, including for our honeymoon, which is on the North Shore, because that's just when you can hear the waves in the background. And we do it in September. We do it when it's cold, and that's fun. And this is the part they don't want me to say. We read Lord of the Rings. How lucky am I? I found a wife who's willing to read Lord of the Rings with me, to me, back and forth, and she will tell me, Peter, did you really give that nerdtastic answer? And but that's the honest answer. I also love the morality of Lord of the Rings, because the hero isn't the person with the biggest weapon on the battlefield. It's the one who's willing to resist the temptation to submit to evil. And there's a beauty in that. The biggest character is, the biggest, most powerful character is the smallest, purest soul. And I love that. And I love the North Shore, so that's my answer.
All good answers. Thank you so much, candidates. It's time for closing statements. So I would like to start with Mr. Noor.
Thank you. We have a serious opportunity gap in our society. Our families, our students, our middle class, our poor, our elderly, they've all been cut from opportunity. We have to address the issues of moving forward. All of us are in this together. I believe I'll fight to close the opportunity gap that is leaving many of our children out, unable to reach their full potential. I'll fight to protect women's right to choose. I'll fight to protect and defeat the voter ID initiative. I'll fight to protect the Divisive Marriage Amendment Act. And I'll fight for all our families to be successful. I think we have to work together. I do believe we can work together. I do believe I can reach out in all the sides in this district. Thank you again. I look forward to earning your support. I look forward for your vote on December 6th, and thanks again.
Thank you. Mr. Ostrow, closing statement?
I have come to the conclusion that the way we govern will be dictated by the way we campaign. And a huge problem we have is that we're not campaigning the right way. And this campaign has been dedicated to change that. We don't level with people. We tell them what they want to hear. We have a $4 or $5 billion budget. We tell everyone tax the rich and everything will be great. No, not going to happen. We have simplistic answers that appeal to folks, but we don't trust them and we don't have enough courage to lead to actually walk through the complexities of the issues that we face. So this campaign is unconventional because I've taken some really strong statements and ones that most campaign managers would recommend against. It's also untraditional because I've made a commitment not just for this campaign, but for any future campaign, and while I'm in office, I will not take PAC money, I will not take lobbyist money. I guess you could call that unilateral disarmament. If you look at some of the comments, it's kind of funny. Some of the people think my lawn signs are too small, so I'm not going to win. We're using only volunteers. Other campaigns have more money and they're using paid staff because they're able to get those funds. We're not using that. We have to restore the faith people have in their democracy before we can get anything done. And that's what this campaign is committed to.
Thank you. Mr. Wagenius.
Thank you very much. I've really enjoyed tonight. Progressive minds talking together is just a thrill. I've learned, I hope you've learned a lot about me. I want to tell you I've learned a lot about you and from you in the conversations that we've had on the phone these past 6 weeks. If I haven't talked to you yet, let me tell you, I hope I can because they've been great. We've talked a lot about policy tonight. Let's talk about politics for just a second. We have to talk about politics. This is a strong DFL district, and I believe we have a moral obligation to do more than pick a senator who's going to vote right most of the time. We need to pick the person who's going to hit the ground running on day one. I hope you believe after tonight that that's me. But we also have to do something else. We're also electing a person who's going to be a member of the DFL Senate caucus team. And this is crucial because this is a strong DFL district, and this person should be generous with their time, and we together should be generous with their time. We got to go out into the swing districts and get us back in the majority. If we're not in the majority, then so many of the things that we've been talking about together aren't going to happen. They're not going to happen. We have to commit to that together because the Senate used to be the place where the line was drawn. You won't cut it that far, not that far. You won't be that brutal to people defenseless, and you won't put hate on the ballot for political gain. The Senate was the place where the line was drawn, and we need to restore that. And we can only, I can't do that, nobody up here can do that, only we can do that together when generous DFL districts go out into other districts and put us back in the majority. Let's do that together.
Thank you. Ms. Dziedzic.
I'd like to thank Senate District 59 again for hosting this. I know how much work is involved in that, so I appreciate all your hard work. And I'd like to thank all of you for coming here today. I hope you learned a little bit about me. And if you have any more questions, I'd love to chat with you and earn your support. I don't believe in negative campaigning. I am running a positive issue-oriented campaign. I'm proud of my support from women winning, the firefighters, the police officers, Teamsters, and building trades. I bring people together to find creative solutions. We've had volunteers age 8 to 80 out working every Saturdays on door knocks and putting up lawn signs, in case you missed one of those. As I said before, I will listen to your concerns and I will work hard with you to find solutions to move the state forward. I ask for your support to serve you in the state Senate on December 6th. Thank you again for coming today.
We, as a Senate district and as a state right now, are at a crossroads. We can allow our economy to further stagnate, or we can act to create jobs. We can allow our infrastructure to further crumble, or we can act to bring it into the 21st century. We can permit a hate-filled constitutional amendment to pass, or we can act, stand up for love, commitment, and marriage, and shut that amendment down. We can continue on the same path, continue with the status quo, or we can act, make a generational shift to new ideas, new enthusiasm, and new leaders. I tell you what, I am that generational shift that we need. You may not know my parents' last name, you may not know my parents' names, but you don't need a last name in order to run for the state Senate, and you don't need a last name to affect positive change. As senator, I will make sure that college graduates don't need to move back with their parents, but can move forward with the profession. I will make sure that everyone has access to a job, health care, and the ability to make a living wage. And I will make sure that everyone in Senate District 59 is involved, regardless of their race, regardless of their religion, sex, it does not matter. So what I'm asking you to do is, on December 6th, I'm asking you to vote for a leader. I'm asking you to disregard everything else. It's full disclosure, I am 30 years old. But this is the shift that we need right now. Give me the chance. Just give me this chance, and I will exceed every single one of your expectations.
Thank you, Mr. Frey, and all of the candidates. Those were excellent closing statements.
Thank you, candidates. Thank you. Thank you. Audience, I want you to not only appreciate the volunteers, but the candidates. We had planned to allow time for 5 questions from the audience. If it was up to me, we'd be ordering off the breakfast menu, and you guys would be here on sleeping bags answering questions, but let's be glad I'm not in charge. We were able to ask 2 additional audience questions. We're still ahead of schedule. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that you were concise, you were succinct, and you were clear. And I think that helps people. Ladies and gentlemen, before we call up the chair for some closing remarks and then send you off on your way, hopefully home safely, we have an extraordinary opportunity. We have 5 excellent candidates here, not 5 good candidates. I believe 5 excellent candidates. They are diverse, they are intelligent, they are passionate, they are well prepared, and 29 other adjectives. And Tuesday, all of us need to go vote in the primary. If you are currently not registered, you can same day register. We need to vote. We need to get our neighbors to vote. Any age, any neighborhood within the district, we need to show up. We know that Paul said the world belongs to those who show up. So let's vote. We appreciate your honesty and your candor. And Jill, I'll let you have the last word.
I think your last word was pretty good. But I just wanted to say I appreciate everyone's time. This was a really informative evening. There were some terrific audience questions, so thanks for all of you for being here and for sharing. And good luck, candidates. That's it.
Ladies and gentlemen, just for a couple of more minutes, Senate District 59 DFL Chair Harrison Nelson.
Thank you. Wonderful forum. I gave you an assignment to listen and select your very best candidate. How many of those were able to do that tonight? Could I see hands? Okay. I see some hands raised. I see a lot of hands that are not raised. Those people raised their hands. I'm assuming you're going to go talk to your candidate after this. We're going to have a few extra minutes and volunteer to help out. There's only 5 days left. Somebody asked, boy, you really got a close horse race in 59, don't you? And I said, it's not a horse race. It's a cavalry charge. Those people who did not raise your hand, we've included 2 pieces of information. One is 1 page of candidate information for each of the 5 candidates in the program. Have a look at that. And the other item is, we've listed the questions, the 22 questions we asked these candidates to answer in writing, and those answers are posted on our website, sd59.org. Go to that. Make a decision soon, because this is wide open. The people sitting in this audience can make the difference in this election. There's no doubt in my mind about that. So make up your mind, contact these people, work for them. They only got 5 days left. You can make the difference. I want to thank you for coming. I want to thank you for cleaning up the area around you, because otherwise we're going to pay money to do that. I want to thank you for everything you do for our state and our country. You can stick around a while and talk to the candidates. But I have to say, this forum is adjourned.